couple quick words for you as a fantastic ally for reproductive rights.
Good morning, everybody. If you want to know where I am on this issue, let me make it clear. I'm with Joanne Ward. She does a wonderful job of representing you, but I want you to know that there are some men in the House of Delegates who, while we may not be directly affected by these laws, are on your side. I've been here, I have been in the past, and I have become increasingly concerned as the number of bills continue to proliferate. Your advocacy will help turn this around. Thank you for being here. I will continue to work with you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here on a beautiful winter day. My name is Mark Sickles. I'm chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. I'm from that beautiful county up north called Fairfax County. And thank you for being here. I just want to say, don't stop. Keep it up. The public's on our side. Thank you very much.
Is here, and she is the domestic program director for Catholics for Choice, which is working in the U.S. and internationally with a mission to shape and advance sexual and reproductive ethics that are based on justice, reflect a commitment to women's well-being, and respect and affirm the capacity of women and men to make moral decisions about their lives. So let's give it up for Sarah Hutchinson.
My name is Sarah Hutchinson, and I am here from Catholics for Choice. So first I want to say, I live in Virginia, I'm a woman, I vote, and I am pro-choice, and so are so many Catholics across this country. At Catholics for Choice, we are here today and across the nation to raise the voice of the millions of Catholics who disagree with the Vatican about sex, sexuality, reproductive health, abortion, and the proper role of religion in public policy. I'm proud to be here, and I thank the Virginia Pro-Choice Coalition for having us here to stand up for choice and to stand with these strong pro-choice leaders who to tell their colleagues in the State House that the bishops do not speak for the 700,000 Catholics in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Catholics make up about a quarter of the U.S. population, and there are less than 300 active U.S. Catholics. There are 68 million Catholics in the United States. When the Catholic hierarchy claims to speak for us, we know this isn't true. The 68 million Catholics in the United States, the 700,000 Catholics in Virginia, we are the church. Catholics support policies that enable women to take care of the whole person and to make their own decisions about whether and when to have children, and the laws to ensure that all healthcare is accessible and affordable and comprehensive for everyone. Well called. Warm up, yeah. You guys are brave to be out here in this cold. Every woman should have the right to decide the future of her pregnancy according to her own conscience, whatever her reasons, whatever the circumstances. We recognize that support for choice is not enough by itself. Access to abortion is an integral part of women's reproductive health care. Women need the access to resources and services, including the counsel of professionals, friends, family, and whomever they choose to involve in the decision. Time and again, the Catholic hierarchy, including the Virginia Catholic Conference, tells the public and their public representatives who represent them in Richmond that the bishops represent what Catholics want and think. But we know that the bishops do not represent Catholics. And their lobbying against contraception and abortion has disastrous effects on women's lives. We know that restrictions on access and coverage for reproductive health hurt the most vulnerable of our society. First and foremost, this includes women of color, women of low income, and those in rural communities especially. 98% of sexually active Catholic women have used a form of contraception banned by the Vatican. Catholic teaching teaches us to listen to our own conscience, to respect other people's rights to do the same.
Thank you.
The Catholic tradition for social justice advocates for the poor and marginalized, and 85% of Catholics, more than the general public, believe in extending birth control coverage for those who can't afford it on their own. The Catholic hierarchy and the Virginia Catholic Conference have been very active in the last few months and last few years to tell representatives in Richmond that they speak for Catholics. But we know the Catholics don't want the bishops in these conversations. A survey in 2011 told us that only 11% of Catholics want the bishops involved in public policy matters. They say that they believed the church leaders should, only 14% of them said that they thought church leaders should have the final say about health decisions. 86% of Catholics believe that voters do not have an obligation to vote the way their bishop tells them to. I'm here to assure our representatives and all of you that the bishops do not represent the public opinion of Catholics in Virginia, nor the majority of Americans, especially on reproductive health care. As a Catholic, as a woman who lives in Virginia, I'm here to say the bishops don't represent me. These leaders represent me. While the bishops and their allies recently have been speaking out, we know that all that noise cannot hide the fact that the rank and file Catholics are missing from the chorus. If the bishops were here and listened to those voices, they'd hear in principle and in practice, private citizens and public officials. The majority of Catholics want equal access for comprehensive reproductive health care and religious liberty for everyone. Catholics for Choice and I are here in Richmond today to make sure that the bishops' voices aren't the only ones that are heard. To lift up the voices of those million Catholics across the country who support access to contraception and abortion. Not in spite of Catholic tradition, but because of it. Women's health and women's rights are Catholic values. Virginia Catholics know it. We're here in Richmond to stand with our leaders in the General Assembly and to speak out for reproductive health in the Commonwealth and tell those who would try to stop us that we know it too. Catholics are pro-choice.
Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, we have one more speaker for you guys, and on the 40th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I am so excited to be able to introduce Dr. Karen Rumley. You may remember that she served as the Virginia State Commissioner of Health for 5 years under the leadership of both Democratic and Republican governors, and through it all, Dr. Rumley remained committed to advancing and protecting public health with a particular focus on improving maternal and child health care. For those who had the privilege of working with her, they praised Dr. Rumley for her energy, her creativity, and her dedication. However, this past October, Dr. Rumley resigned from her position after Ken Cuccinelli's overreach in politicizing targeted regulations on abortion providers. We are so grateful for Dr. Rumley's years of service, and I am so excited to be able to hand the mic over to her right now.
So in good public health fashion, I think the first thing is everybody should jump up and down a few times so they get that blood going. I have to say, before I begin my formal remarks, and I did write formal remarks because this is really a very humbling and honoring experience for me, I have to tell you, 40 years ago, I was 16. I came from a family of 5 good Catholic girls, and when Roe v. Wade passed, I thought about it, and I actually called my mother, and she said, don't you remember, we talked about it that night, and we talked about it was a fundamental respect for not just women's rights, but for all rights, and we talked about it in the concept of civil rights for the entire country. And I never dreamt when I was 16, or when I was in medical school, or when I was a mother, or when I was a doctor at a patient's bedside, that I would need to be at a rally defending Roe v. Wade 40 years later. So right now, I think thank all of you for coming, but the people I especially thank, and any of those who are here, I feel like we became colleagues through the last 2 years, are those people who work at abortion clinics or abortion providers. As you all know, 2 years ago, the General Assembly passed a bill requiring regulations of facilities where abortions were performed. The clinic providers really rose to that challenge. And last year, they worked closely with the Department of Health. And they really worked in innovative and collaborative and collegial ways to improve the quality and safety of health for women who have abortion procedures in our state. And I can say they are some of the safest facilities to have an outpatient procedure anywhere in our state. Rather than moving forward with the overreaching approach to the physical plant component, which we've heard about, that the Attorney General's office interpreted beyond what the legislature actually passed in code, I really think it's time for, and I appreciate the General Assembly's efforts, to go back to that thoughtful, collaborative, and collegial approach, which really is what Virginia is supposed to be about in terms of government. So the other important thing is, why are we here today? We're here to talk about Roe v. Wade, but for me, it's much, much bigger than that. We're here to celebrate the very large, evolving public health success story. Look around. Think of how many of you came from a family that had 2 or 3 children, where your parents were able to provide the best they could for you and plan when they were going to have that family. This is an issue not just for women, but it's an issue for women and men. I would make the case that Senator Ralph Norman and his wife, my husband, and I were able to plan our families. We were able to get the education we needed and wanted because we had access to good, safe, effective education in schools. We had good, safe access to family planning, and we were able to talk about it, think about it, and engage in it as part of normal medical care. I think ultimately this is all about how we respect each other, how we live and work together, and how we are all very different, men, women, children, but there's a myriad of differences that are beautiful to behold as humans. How we choose what we do and when we do it is something we should be able to do on our own, collaborating with our family, our friends, and our physician. So let's look at the numbers for a little bit. Since 1980, the abortion rates in our state have halved. The abortion rates in teenagers have significantly fallen. Every year we have more significant decreases in unwanted pregnancies. This is working. This is a public health strategy that's working. Stopping in midstream and changing an effective public health strategy is not good for anyone in our country.
No, it's not.
So I think a lot of you acknowledge that abortion is a very morally complex and difficult issue. But I really believe that all of us face morally complex and difficult issues every day. Whether it is in deciding what bill to vote for and how to represent your constituents fairly, whether it's at the patient's bedside or whether it's as a state agency person trying to figure out how to use funding. We all have many complex issues, end-of-life issues that we discuss. It's important that women are given the authority to have that discussion with their doctor, with their family, with whomever they choose to have, and are not interfered with by others. We don't want interference. The other thing I would tell you is, while many of us have been able to achieve our dreams because of family planning and because of the respect that it's brought to women and to the idea of family and being able to plan your family, there are many who lag behind. And sadly, those that lag behind are normally the poor, the vulnerable, and it has become a true health equity issue. So while you all stand here today to represent your own choice, you're also representing a number of young men and women who can't stand with you. Who deserve, through health equity, to have the same choices that I have, to have the same choices you have. So I ask each one of you to think about how you continue to champion for funding to continue education, so children understand sex education, to continue access to family planning, and to continue safe, effective, and legal abortions. And so, lastly, why am I here? I believe in the Constitution of the United States and of Virginia. I believe in the Bill of Rights. I believed that government knew how, through democracy, to work, and I embraced and engaged in that process. But when individuals overreach their authority and step over the lines of what's appropriate for democracy, it is time for us to step forward and say something. So what I ask you to finish with today is to think about somebody like me who came late to these types of rallies, and how do you have a conversation with that person? I think you talk with them about the fact that Hillary Clinton is probably one of the best secretaries of state we've had in years. Roe v. Wade and choice allowed her to be where she is today, because it is all part of the bigger discussion. If you look around the fabric of our society, women are in the military. For the first time ever, Harvard College has a woman African American as their dean. All of those things are possible because of the respect and the engagement of women in the workplace, in the home, and everywhere. And that's the discussion we need to have. Roe v. Wade is a very, very essential and important element, but it is a much bigger issue than pro-choice. It is, where are women in our society, and how do we stand as equals next to every man there is in the world? So thank you, and I know everybody here is going to vote, but this is going to be a very important election year, so I hope everybody has an opportunity to talk to people, and especially young people, about why it's so important to vote. Thank you.
I think we need to give another round of applause for all of our amazing speakers today. I'm just going to run through them all very quickly. These are the people who have been fighting for you in the state government, so please remember their names and remember that they are fighting for you every day in the halls of the General Assembly. So please, let's do our best we can to support them and support their legislation. They are Senator Barbara Favola, Senator Ralph Northam, Senator Mark Herring, Delegate Ken Plum, Delegate Gian Ward, Delegate Mark Sickles. Thank you so much for your leadership and service to this cause. Okay, so I'm also going to really quickly give a shout out to all the members of the Pro-Choice Coalition. These are the organizations that have worked to make this event possible, and we thank them so much for putting this together and for allowing this to happen. They are the Virginia affiliates of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
The League of Women Voters. NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia. The National Council of Jewish Women of Virginia. The American Civil Liberties Union of Virginia. The Jewish Community Relations Council of Virginia. Progress Virginia. Virginia Now, the National Organization for Women. The American Association of University Women of Virginia. And finally, Unite Women of Virginia.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your work, and thank you so much for coming out here. I'm just going to do a little bit more of some housekeeping stuff.